So here we go. So today I am with a person I've never met before. Her name is Jazzy Williams, and Jazzy is the founder of Always Working. And Always Working is her company. And what it does is it helps 9-to-5ers discover new opportunities for entrepreneurship and side hustles without the overwhelming stress of starting from scratch. So Jazzy, welcome. I appreciate you being with me today.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah. So could you tell me a little bit more about Always Working and why you started this business?
Yeah, definitely. Always Working. It's had a long journey. I think Always Working has been a few different businesses, but now it really focuses on work-life balance. I think that we have all been taught that we need to have work-life balance that is surrounded around our work. And this is just pushing something else and saying, hey, my life is my life. I want to surround my work around my life. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think I saw a post the other day and it said that we need to abolish the 5-day work week. And I agree.
Can you make that happen? Can you make that? Is that possible?
Yeah, we're so close. I mean, nobody goes to the office anymore. So it's definitely possible. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what Always Working is. It's just about pushing hard work, saying, yes, I know that we have to work, just being realistic. Somebody has to pay the bills, but it doesn't have to take over our life.
Right. So what caused you to say, hey, I want to do this? Like, what was it that happened in your life where you said, you know what, I'm going to start my own gig and this is what I want it to be?
Yeah, that was a journey too. I mean, going way back, I remember, my parents got divorced when I was 4 years old. And my father was very involved, but he was out of state. And my mother really struggled as a single mom and just a woman, period. And now that I am a woman, I understand some of the things that she might have been going through. But it was hard seeing her. It was heartbreaking to a point. And I remember her often looking at people and saying, oh, one day we'll have that. And one day we'll have the house. And one day we'll have the car. And I just thought to myself, I said, we are. And I said, if it's the last thing I do, I'm going to make sure that we get these things. It doesn't always work out the way you want it to. It's been a slow journey, but, at that point, I decided that I was going to work. And if there was a way for me to work for it, I would do it. So ultimately, I just became a hard worker. I started working when I was 16. It was work over everything. I played sports. I played basketball and softball, but if I didn't have to, I would have quit that and been working if I
could. Right. And it takes time, I would think, right? I mean, just because you're working, sometimes you work your tail off for something and you don't always see the end result. You're just kind of grinding it out. So how do you stay motivated during those times?
Oh man, I'm a goal setter. I also believe in God. I always pray and he's never let me down. But I remember even when I moved to Florida in college, I remember I was getting ready to lose my car. I had got fired from one of my jobs. I was in my 20s and, I was not balancing my time the best I could. But it was just hard. But in my head, I said, I'm not going back home. I'm not going to be a failure. So I went and got another job. And then I had another job that ended up actually being my career job at that time. And I said, God, if I can just get these first 2 paychecks, I will be responsible. I will do what I have to do. And I meant that. And from that point on, my life turned around. And I just really said that I wanted to work towards my goal. And that was a game changer for me because I realized when I set those goals, hey, it actually works out if I follow through. And I said, this is a formula for me. All I have to do is, my thing back then was that diligence equals success. So set my goals, work towards them, stay consistent. It's not going to happen overnight. Work hard, be accountable, and voila, I always got my end result. And I'm sure that God, blessed me along the way.
Yeah, he might have had something to do with it, right? So tell me about the side hustle thing. There are obviously a lot of people out there that work. They go to work every single day. Now, a lot of them working out of the house or some are still going to the office, I guess. But I know a lot of people I've met in my life that aren't happy with what they do. They just do it.
Right.
And a lot of them feel trapped. Like, well, what else am I supposed to do? This is, work's not supposed to be fun. And many of them don't even think about this idea of maybe starting something on the side. And many don't even know where to begin. So what's going on in the mind of somebody that could potentially use your help? Where are they at? What are they thinking? What could you potentially help them consider?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they are where I was. So most times when you think about getting side hustle, it's because you're in a bad predicament or you're hard up for money. So that example, again, when I had those 2 jobs, I had to go get a second job. no one, especially when you're younger, no one really wants to work a second job because that means you have no free time. That means you're not having fun. And that means probably when you get that second paycheck, you're still not making ends meet. So that's where most people are. And, you know, with online opportunities, it's got a little bit more obvious that it doesn't have to be so hard. But I never want to tell somebody to say, hey, go out there and get a second job and work all night. Because I remember working, I think I was working 8 to 5, being tired, sitting in an hour traffic, and then going to work, I think from 5 to 10. And I hated it. That's not what side hustle should be at all.
So what could it be? A lot of people that I talk to, there are some people that clearly understand what their hobbies are and what their interests are. Then there are others that they're not thinking about it in that way, or they're not thinking that maybe that a hobby could be monetized. And I don't know if a side hustle is a hobby, or if it's just, is that what it is? Or is it, hey, look, I've got a talent in this space, I should find a way to monetize it. What exactly would you?
I mean, this is my opinion, but you're right. I think that's exactly what it should be. We're all good at something. We all have a hobby. Why not spend your free time, which essentially, if you have a side hustle or not, that's your little bit of free time that you have. Why not spend that making money doing something that you love? And that's exactly what Always Working is. We don't post jobs that say, hey, you have to go to the factory, or hey, you have to work 8 hours. It's like, hey, this is and you don't have to do surveys. I know that's a big thing. Nothing like that. No gimmicky stuff. It's saying, hey, this person will really pay you maybe 20 to 50 hours to help consult them. And maybe you're really good at consulting or accounting, or you're good at finding stuff. For instance, one of the gigs that we posted was just finding resources or vendors in China. All you're doing is research. So, I mean, there's something for everyone. So it's bringing that to light to say, hey, you're good at something. Don't feel like you're in a box, and you can make money and you can enjoy it. And
achieve a little independence while you're at it, right?
Yeah.
It's funny. Go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off there. Well, the work I do today, a long time ago, when I was in the training business, I found that, and I used to do a lot of sales training. I do some of it today, but a lot of what I do is leadership work. I still train and develop salespeople too, but it's just a piece of the business. But when I used to train and develop salespeople, I recognized pretty quickly that they couldn't apply what I was teaching them. So I used to coach them on the side for free. And my thought was, if I could just teach them how to do it, like on my own time, they'll be successful. They'll make more money. Yeah. And I used to give it away. I would just give it away. And I also used to speak for free. And I loved it. And the crazy part is that's how I get paid today, doing something that I used to do for free. And I wonder, like, have you ever experienced that?
Oh, yeah, for sure. The biggest thing is that I didn't have confidence. So I started off with marketing, freelancing. So I probably could have charged, but I was being an honest person with integrity. I said, I don't want to charge them unless I really can help them. So I found this bank, I think it was Pacific Community Ventures, and they offered counseling to their borrowers. So once the borrower came on, they would get like free marketing to help them with their small business loan. And I applied. The application says you had to be like 45 and older. I think I was like 28 at the time. And I said, well, I just want to help out. I graduated, I went to school for this, and, I can give my expertise. And they let me come on for whatever reason, because I didn't meet the requirements. So I started doing free consultations and free counseling. And I realized that these people actually do need my help, and I do know more than they know. So again, that's another thing, just having confidence that you are good at it. You do know something. And just because you know something doesn't mean that other people do. Most people aren't interested in the same thing, so they won't even take the time to learn. So I think the confidence, and then also don't love it so much that you don't want to get paid.
I totally agree with that. What's interesting to me about what you said, and my parents are divorced too. My mom passed away, but they were divorced before she passed away. So I get that piece. You struggled earlier in your career. You have the experience of, say, getting fired from a job, maybe being unhappy at a job. I know right now, I'd love to get into this, because you told me about your experience overseas, and I hope we can talk about that a little bit. But it's not like things are laid up on a silver platter for you, and you're going to be a mom. So like, you've got a lot going on in your life, but you're still finding time for this stuff. I mean, what about all the people who say, I don't have time for that? I don't have time for that. How do you rationalize that with people that might think that it's not possible?
I mean, it's not true. You do have time. So there's things I have to cut out. I spent a lot more time at home. We were forced to with COVID, but I started realizing, hey, I can maximize on this time. I stopped watching as much Netflix. I stopped binge watching. I don't know. I started eating better, so I have more energy. So I can't say I'm tired or I'm lazy. You know what I mean? So it's not true. You do have time, but when you really set in on your goals, you need to start there. You need to look at your goals and say, what do you really want out of life? And ask yourself, honestly, how bad do you really want it? Because you have to make changes. It's not easy. And also, being able to cry through the struggle. So there's been many a days. I remember taking on like 5 clients and they were demanding. And I think I was charging them like $16 an hour, which is crazy when I look at it. And I realized the less that you charge, the more that they want. But I remember just breaking down crying. And at that time, I couldn't go back to a 9 to 5. But I said, this is harder than working my job. When you're on your job, you can kind of get away with being laxy-daisy a little bit sometimes.
Yeah.
Hard. And I remember crying my tears and telling myself, and I still cry my tears sometimes. And I say, suck it up. Cry, get over it, or have a bad day, get over it. But tomorrow I'll show back up again. And that's the most important part, not giving up.
So you must have a decent support system around you then.
I do. I'm also working on this where I'm prideful. So I think that sometimes being a strong person, people think that you're so strong and nothing phases you. And it's like, how do you do that? Like everything's so easy for you. And it's not. I tend to be the person that I cry my tears and I go through my struggles and I figure things out by myself as much as I can, because I don't want to burden people. But if you need to talk to somebody, which I do that sometimes too, or if you need to ask for help, or if you need to just take a break, that's important. So ultimately just knowing yourself, what do you need to keep this going? And if you need more than somebody else, that's okay. But that doesn't mean you should stop or not do something.
Yeah, I agree with you. So tell me about, tell me about why you went to China, when you went to China, what happened when you were there, and then how you got here, how you got back. What was going on? Tell me about that story.
I got married in 2019. Before that, my fiance at the time was playing basketball in Europe. So he came back from Europe. He didn't really like it. And he didn't know if he wanted to stay at home or just quit basketball. And I told him I would support whatever you want to do, but I knew that was his dream. So I said, if an opportunity comes, I'll try to just come with you and we can make it work. And I think the next week he got a call to go to China, which I wasn't expecting that. It's like, oh, this really quickly. So we got married in July. He went to China in May, came back for our wedding, and then went back. So I told him I was just trying to figure out my job. Give me some time. I went to visit, I think, at my birthday in August. I liked it. So I came back. I left my job. I quit my job, moved all my stuff out the house apartment, put it in storage. And then I met him in China in September. And I didn't know what to expect. I mean, he loved it. He was doing really well, playing basketball and coaching as well. It seemed like a good thing. And if he was happy, I was happy. And that was hard too, because being an independent woman and being a hard worker, I had to put all my trust into my husband and say, I'll come there, but I don't have a job. I don't know where my next check is coming from. Right. I don't work like you. He had his basketball family and players and different things. I didn't have anything but him. I mean, so that's a whole nother challenge in itself as well. But once I got over there, you quickly realize that you're a foreigner. Nobody speaks English. Right. So there's challenges, but it was fun. We had a lot of fun together. There was ups and downs, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. I remember him telling me, he used to always push me about my business and say, you don't realize how big Always Working could be. Because at that time, there wasn't even a website. I just had a logo and I would talk about how passionate I was about it, but there was nothing there.
Yep.
So he would always push me. And he said, now you can go get your own clients. And he told me about a site called Upwork. And even then I applied and I said, nobody's going to hire me. I don't have any reviews. Nobody knows me. Like, I don't even know how to work the website.
Right.
And then got my first client and I came and told him, I said, I have a client, and they ended up paying me $7,500. So I started doing that. Started building my confidence slowly. He was playing basketball. I was able to still travel on the road with him for his games. And it worked out. We were having a whole adventure with each other. It was new for both of us. I think we grew up a lot over there. It was only about a year and a half. We got stuck. Another thing is that when I went to China, everyone was worried, my parents, my friends and family. And I said, well, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, what could possibly happen? Right.
Right. So then we get stuck with the pandemic and I'm like, oh, well, I can't go back to a job. So at that point, when you realize you're going to be somewhere for at least a year or so, it's like, well, I got to keep this going. And, you know, my husband always said I worked too hard because I didn't necessarily need to work then. But I also thought about long term, and I didn't want to put that burden on him where he had to worry about everything for me, even though I know he would have.
Yep. So that's interesting. When did you realize that you couldn't come home? Was it immediately?
No, it was, we went over there in, I said September when I got there. I think COVID hit and
COVID hit, I want to say it was in the fall of 20. No, it would have been a fall of 19. Didn't become a thing there, but it wasn't really broadcast internationally yet.
Yeah, actually, I remember we were traveling for one of his games and they were saying that something had hit and we didn't know what, but same thing, like we're in the United States, we just say, oh, whatever, that's not us, it's somebody else. Right. And then we couldn't get a flight. So then we had to go get masks, which everyone wears masks there, but we never did. Right. So we go masks and they say, our translator tells us that, hey, I'm going to take you here, but they may not let you fly. And at that point, we realized it was kind of serious. So we were able to get on our flight and we just were thankful. We didn't want to get stuck. We were traveling all over China at that point. So I think we were probably about 4 hours away from where we were actually living in near Guangzhou, China. Okay. So we got on the flight and when we got back, everyone was kind of just staring at us. Like we just felt like outsiders. So I guess that's had already occurred that if you, for one, were Black and if you were American, they didn't want anything to do with you because I guess they thought it had came from America. I don't know. And mind you, we hear the whispers, we hear the stares, but we don't speak Chinese. So we really don't know what's going on. We just kind of see like, hey, we're not really wanted here.
Yeah, do you feel unsafe at all in that circumstance?
I never felt unsafe. I think with my husband playing basketball and his support system, we were pretty much protected. But also China is a very safe place. So where we lived at kind of felt like a New York vibe, but it was like a safe New York. Yep. Clean streets, people walking at night, families out. Before that, they were very loving of us and very accepting. So I always felt safe there for the most part.
Got it. Okay. So it sounds to me like when you were there in a way, your side hustle, this always working thing started to take off and was actually not a distraction for you, but it gave you some additional purpose, I would think, right?
Yeah, it did for sure. It actually got hard because I got a really big client and I was working overnight. And so my husband was playing basketball and traveling. I was traveling with him and I was working because we're 12 hours ahead over there. So I think I was working from like 8 p.m. to 3 or 4 in the morning and then having to get up and spend time with my husband, which, I didn't want to be unfair to him. And then also traveling for his schedule. It was just a lot. Even when we went through isolation, it was just us. So we really depended on each other for a lot. And I mean, it gets hard. I think, any relationship during COVID and isolation and shutdown, that's a lot.
Yeah, that would have been torture for my wife. She would not, that wouldn't have worked out well being stuck with me for in isolation. That wouldn't have.
Right. Yeah. And we have my daughter here, my daughter before marriage, and she was here. So we didn't have any kids or anything to distract us. It was just the two of us.
Oh, no kidding. That's a crazy story. I can't imagine what it must have felt like being somewhere else. We were over in Kenya on our honeymoon during 9/11, and we didn't know what it was. We got there on the 3rd or the 4th, and then all of a sudden we were notified on the 11th at dinner. We were at a dinner and you ever hear of Masai Mara, the big wildlife reserve? Anyway, we were having dinner there. And the general manager of the facility came up to my wife and I, and he said he needed to speak to us. And I might have told this story before on another podcast. So if anyone's listening and they heard this story, then whatever. But he said, there's been there's an incident back in the United States. A plane flew into the White House. That's what he said to us. And I thought it was a joke because it was our honeymoon and they had surprised us a ton with little things throughout the trip. And I'm like, oh, here comes another surprise.
Right.
And so he asked us to follow him and we got up, we walked off into the path and there were guys with machine guns and they led us to this building and we walk into this building and it was filled with people from the camp and they're staring at these TVs and the towers are burning. And I'm like, that's not the White House. Like I don't even know what's going on here. And it just said America under attack. And it was the weirdest feeling to be somewhere else other than home during such a like an historical event. And here you are, same thing. You're somewhere other than home during an unprecedented event, and you can't get back.
Right.
So your time there, you had to stay much longer than us. We got home within 3 weeks or so. But I know that feeling of I can't get home. I'm like here, and I look different than everybody. I mean, does anyone want to kill me? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then in my lack of awareness, I'd go to the airports and everybody was dressed in different garb. And I'm like, am I safe? Am I going to, I didn't know what to think of anybody.
As safe as China.
It's just crazy.
Yeah.
So, you said something earlier that reminded me, as you were getting this thing going over there and you had that client pay you the money, I know that feeling. When I started this 7.5 years ago, I had a couple of clients write me checks. I didn't have a website. I had no services. I didn't have a bank account to put the money in, a business account. And I'm like, I guess I got to get this thing started. And even though I wanted to get it started, it became real in a hurry. And I'm wondering, like, as you go back to these 9-to-5 people, they're used to being in a 9-to-5 structure. And the idea of being an entrepreneur or picking up something on the side that could lead to more is probably a foreign concept to many, many people. And so quitting that 9-to-5 is probably not the right option for many. But what are you doing to help people know that this is available? How do they find you? How do you enroll them in this story or in this possibility?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm launching my ebook. It's Side Hustle and Grow. And it really focuses not just on side hustle, but how can you grow while you're doing a side hustle? So don't look at this as just an opportunity to make money. Look at it as an opportunity to grow yourself. So if you're growing your passion, your expertise, your knowledge, it might just be loving yourself. I think sometimes when you pour in and invest in yourself, that is self-care and self-love. So I'll have the ebook that comes out. It's good that you mentioned that the infrastructure when it comes to building your own business, it's not easy. And I think even if someone were to start, they're most likely to quit when you see everything that comes with it. So also I'll have a course that it kind of lays it out. It's not any long, extensive course. It's an email course, and it just kind of lays out, I think, in 4 different days, how you can start your own business. You can use an infrastructure that's already set up. For instance, Upwork, they are going to take 20% of your money, but trust me, it's okay. It's worth it because you're going to have a headache if you're trying to set up everything. And that's better you giving a little bit of money in the beginning than just quitting and never seeing something flourish that can actually be successful. So I kind of lay out everything. I give them the blueprint for the easy way. And I do that not because everything should be easy, but it needs to be easy when you start because you're learning, you're building your confidence, you're learning yourself. So even as I did different consultations, I would say, oh, I knew more about this than I thought. I should talk about it more, or I should share it more. So you don't have to be perfect. It's a process. And that's why always working. I know some people ask me when they see the website, they say, well, how does self-development fall into the side hustles? And that's exactly what I'm bringing to you. That side hustle should be a self-development. You should be growing and learning. Just as any CEO that you see, they went through these phases, whether it be in corporate or their own business. We just don't know about it.
Right. And it sounds to me based on the ebook. So you've got one ebook or multiple ebooks?
I have one ebook.
One ebook. Okay. So so it's not just on the structure of how to get started and a couple of simple steps. I mean, it sounds like it gets into what it really takes upstairs from a resilience standpoint to power through things. Do you get into some of that stuff?
Yeah, I do. I share a little bit of my personal journey. A little bit of my struggles as a woman. And as I'm such a prideful person, and I like to think that I'm very confident, but I do hone in on a little bit of the insecurities that I had as a woman. And I think it's very important to talk about the insecurities for men and women because we spend so much time trying to hide them that we never actually excel or grow them or maybe even outgrow them. So I talk about that because that like I said, outside of God, that has been key to me becoming a better person, a harder worker, and making more money. Without your confidence, and your insecurity doesn't have to be related to, oh, am I going to give a good speech, or how well can I speak? It can be something that is with you in relationships. Are you always second guessing yourself? Are you always complaining because deep down you don't have an answer? So just kind of pulling some things out of you to say, if you work on these things, you can be a better person. But if you don't know to work on them, how will you ever change them?
How do you do that when, the world isn't necessarily telling that story? You know what I mean? Like, how do you, the world, if you think of the way information is delivered out there, a lot of it is preying on the weaknesses of people or the insecurities of people. And then when you come out and say, and I feel this myself, I don't know about you, but when you come out and actually offer an alternative way of considering something, it doesn't sound like everybody else. So I think at times, I'll feel like I've worked with many women, like the most successful people that I've worked with as say a manager or a leader in a company, the highest producing people that I've ever worked with for the most part are women. So when I hear that, I'm like, wow, the smartest people I've worked with are women. Like, I don't even think that, but it kills me to think that mindset is out there. And I almost feel like people want it to be out there. You know what I mean? And the idea of offering the alternative is, oh, that's not reality, which I disagree with. But do you know where I'm going with that? Do you relate to that at all? Or?
Yeah, I definitely do. And that's one of the reasons when I started Always Working. If you go to my Always Working social media, you don't see my face there. You just see different things to promote the side hustles. And that's one of the decisions that I'm making this year, that I need to be the forefront of this, because I need to show people where this came from, how it started. So, and I'm a private person. I don't like to brag, but sometimes I might have to show you what I had or what I was able to do with the money that I earned this month. So you can not only, because people like to see things and believe it, unfortunately.
Yeah, at times.
Right. So many gurus and their Lamborghinis and stuff. So you don't know what to believe. So I'm not going to show you my Lamborghini, but I might show you my BMW. And it's not the newest one, but hey, I like it. It's affordable for me and I'm living comfortably. So just different things like that. I think I need to bring that to light. I also I have many successful friends, and like I said, even working with my husband and family members and other things, I want to bring them to light. I want to show that, hey, through our struggles, this is what we created. I want to show you real stories. And it'll be in the future sometimes, but I want to highlight those. Same thing you're doing here. I won't have a podcast, I don't think, but any way I can do that. So if I can have them with me for a feature, or just, they come on my Instagram live or anything, I just want to show people that it's real, and that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to work through those hard pain spots.
I think we need to spend more time talking about that stuff, truthfully. I really do, because if I think about the most successful people, and I don't mean financially always, I just mean happiest people at peace with themselves, people that feel good about themselves. And if money comes with that, great. But they're not people who took the easy path or got things handed to them. They're people that went through tough times, fell down a bunch. They faced adversity, shame, failure, whatever you want to call it. And they got their tails up and they brushed themselves off and they made it happen. So I think you showing that it adds more credibility to the offering. It is my thought on the whole thing. So I think it would be huge if you did something like that. I had one other question for you that now slips my mind. You said something earlier and now I'm blanking on it, but is there anything that I should have asked you, didn't ask you, anything you want to say that you didn't say?
I think we pretty much covered it. The ebook comes out. I encourage everyone to get the ebook. It's not just a regular ebook. I'm not just giving you 5 steps. I do show you how to make money. I do show you, different ideas and concepts that you should know about. I will put out there, my way of teaching and sharing my knowledge is not saying, hey, do this. I'm going to make you think differently. And I think I shared with you before that I can tell you, for instance, to go start a white label company. If I say that to most people, they're going to say, what is white label? I want to put this in your head so you can Google, because from the moment you start doing research for your business, I need to know, or you need to know yourself, that you're going to work So if I have to lay everything out for you, most likely you're not going to follow through. But if I say, hey, you can start a white label business, and somebody goes and Googles that and they come back and they say, oh, I get it now. Now I know you're really interested. You're willing to do some legwork. So that's what the ebook is. It gives you some fundamental steps and different things that you should be thinking about with a side hustle that maybe you didn't know about, but then you do have to do that follow-up work. And I mean, when I started out, I was doing maybe 2 hours a week. And I also shared with you that I make more money in my side hustle than I ever did in corporate. So it's not, side hustle does not mean less money by any means. Right. So take anything away from this interview, take that. Side hustle does not mean it has to go with a 9 to 5. You might just only have a side hustle. That's okay.
I think it's great. So best way for people to reach you, so if somebody said, hey, I want to talk to her, what do they do?
Yeah, definitely. The social media, Instagram is alwaysworking.co. That's also the website, alwaysworking.co. A lot of people put com, it's not com, it's .co. And then my Instagram handle is Jazzy X Always.
So you got a cool name. Your name's Jasmine. You can turn it to Jazzy and get away with it. Like if I become Davy, all of a sudden it's like Davy Crockett or Davy and Goliath. It's just this. It doesn't work. I can't change it into anything. So Jazzy's that's cool. All right. Well, I really enjoyed the conversation. I love what you're doing, and I think this is the example. Oh, you know what I was going to ask you? It was just your. It was more around you being. You kept talking about goals. But I think of it as like it's beyond goals to me it is, because you're talking about this belief in something, this like, it's more than just a job. It's more than just a goal. It's more than just a car. Here's the kind of life I want to live. This is what I'd like to find a way to make happen. Right. And that's almost like your driving force. And part of it is just determining that, hey, look, I want more than what I have right now. Could be happiness, could be money, could be a house. And then it's just, what are some ways that could help me get there? And I think maybe that's what you're offering.
Yeah, definitely. In my ebook, I'm very spiritual. So I didn't really touch upon that, but it's not just my goals. I ask God, what is my purpose? Because sometimes we'll have goals and our wants that may not really align. So maybe I can go out there and be a great realtor. But if I did that, I wouldn't have always working, essentially. So I always go to God first. I know some people believe in the universe or different things, but my thing I always say, well, if it's a universe or me, who do I go to when I feel weak? Not to say that I'm against anyone's belief, but I go to God because I know sometimes I'm weak. I don't have the answers. And I just say, what is my purpose? Sometimes every day typically I'll say, what goes before me today? Or can you go before my day and order my steps? Because you never know who you might meet. You never know who you might encourage or who might encourage you. So I just, I would advise to have a healthy balance between what you want and then also seeking another desire of what it should be. And there's no right answer for that. I can't tell someone what that would look like for them in their personal life.
It's still good advice. It's sound advice, and it works. So it's a healthy way of thinking. So I appreciate that. Well, Jazzy, thank you very much for this convo. I loved it. I will get it all up and I'll share it with you before I release it. And I appreciate your time today.
Yes, for sure. Can't wait to see more.
Absolutely. Hey, good luck with that baby.
Oh, you too.
Okay. I'm not having one. We
have a baby.
All right. Maybe someday. We'll see you later. Bye-bye. Right.